June 30th, 2008. A billionaire pedophile walks out of federal court smirking. Jeffrey Epstein just made 53 federal sex trafficking charges disappear. His victims, some just 14 years old, were never told about the deal. The prosecutor who signed it, Alexander Acosta, becomes Trump's labor secretary. The sentence is insane, 18 months jail, but he leaves 12 hours daily for work. Except during this work release, Epstein's still trafficking girls. Deputies watch him have sex in his office. One guard files a complaint, but it disappears. The FBI had everything: 36 victims' testimony, a 53-page indictment, and evidence of hundreds more girls. Then suddenly prosecutors grant immunity to all potential co-conspirators. Every senator, prince, CEO, and president who visited his island walks free forever. Epstein didn't outsmart the system. He bought it. So who threatened prosecutors into submission? And why did victims' lawyers get disbarred for fighting back? March 14th, 2005, Palm Beach Police Department. Detective Michelle Pagan takes a call that changes everything. A mother reports her 14-year-old daughter was paid $300 to strip naked and massage a 52-year-old man at 358 El Brio Way. This man is Jeffrey Epstein, a financier who claims to manage money only for billionaires, though no client has ever confirmed hiring him. The girl describes purple vibrators, a massage table shipped from Thailand, and Epstein masturbating while she worked. Detective Pagan recognizes a pattern. She starts tracking down other girls seen entering Epstein's 10-bedroom estate. Within weeks, she uncovers a production line of abuse. High school students recruited other students. Epstein paid $200 for bringing a friend, creating a pyramid scheme of exploitation, all between 14 and 17. By May, Pagan has interviewed 47 girls. Each tells variations of the same story, recruited for $200 massages, driven to Epstein's mansion, instructed to undress by his assistant Ghislaine Maxwell, then assaulted while Epstein's hidden cameras rolled. By October 2005, Palm Beach police have statements from 5 underage victims and 17 witnesses. Chief Michael Ryder authorizes a trash pull outside Epstein's mansion. Detectives find torn messages with girls' phone numbers, used condoms, and a school transcript for a local high school student. On October 20th, they execute a search warrant. Inside Epstein's home, they discover hundreds of photographs of naked young women, hidden cameras in the pool house and garage, sex toys in the master bedroom, and a massage table still stained with fluids. The evidence points to dozens, possibly hundreds, of victims. State Attorney Barry Krischer receives the case file expecting swift prosecution. Palm Beach police recommend 4 counts of unlawful sexual activity with a minor and 1 count of lewd and lascivious molestation. Each charge carries 15 years. Instead, Krischer does something unprecedented for a child sex case. He convenes a grand jury. Behind closed doors, without police present, he presents a single victim, the least credible one who had prior theft charges. He doesn't show the photos, the physical evidence, or the testimony from other girls. On June 30th, 2006, the grand jury returns 1 count of solicitation of prostitution. The maximum sentence is 5 months in the county jail. Police Chief Ryder breaks 30 years of protocol and publicly accuses his own prosecutor of corruption. He writes a letter to State Attorney Krischer calling the outcome inappropriate. He contacts the FBI directly, bypassing local prosecutors entirely. The Palm Beach Post runs the story on page 1. Police chief battles prosecutor over Epstein case. Ryder tells reporters he has evidence of a systemic operation targeting minors. Behind the scenes, Epstein's attorney Alan Dershowitz has been calling Krischer's office daily, threatening to destroy the victim's credibility, claiming the girls are lying for money. The FBI opens Operation Leap Year in July 2006. Special Agent Nesbitt interviews 34 additional victims across Florida. Each tells the same story: recruited at their high school or mall, driven to Epstein's house, told they'd give a massage to an older man who'd pay them $200 to $300. Once inside, Epstein would appear in a towel, demand they undress, then escalate to molestation or rape. Several girls describe a woman named Ghislaine Maxwell scheduling appointments and instructing them how to pleasure Epstein. The federal case builds toward a 53-page indictment. But Epstein has assembled a legal team that includes Kenneth Starr, who impeached President Clinton, Alan Dershowitz from Harvard Law, Roy Black, who defended William Kennedy Smith, and Jay Lefkowitz, who worked in both Bush administrations. They're about to orchestrate the most controversial plea deal in Department of Justice history. What leverage could make federal prosecutors abandon their strongest case? And why would the victims never know about the deal until it was too late to stop it? September 2007. U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta sits across from Jay Lefkowitz at the Marriott in West Palm Beach. The meeting is off the books. No official record, no witnesses from the prosecution team. Lefkowitz slides a letter across the table. Epstein will register as a sex offender and plead guilty to 2 state prostitution charges if the federal government drops its investigation. Not just against Epstein, against everyone. All co-conspirators receive immunity. All victims lose their right to sue in federal court. Acosta should laugh him out of the room. Instead, he starts negotiating. The draft federal indictment details how Epstein used interstate commerce to traffic minors for sex across state lines. It names 4 co-conspirators, including Maxwell and Epstein's assistant Sarah Kellen, who scheduled the massages. The charges carry a minimum of 10 years federal prison, likely life for someone trafficking dozens of girls. But Epstein's team floods Acosta's office with letters from Nobel laureates, CEOs, and university presidents vouching for their friend's character and charitable contributions. They file motion after motion, each one requiring responses that drain prosecutor resources. Most crucially, they invoke a detail never confirmed but widely whispered. Epstein once worked as an intelligence asset. Acosta later tells Trump transition officials he was instructed to back off because Epstein belonged to intelligence. The deal takes shape through dozens of meetings between September 2007 and June 2008. Epstein's lawyers write the actual language of his non-prosecution agreement, the defendant drafting his own immunity. They insert a provision that the agreement must remain secret from victims, violating the Crime Victims' Rights Act that requires notification before any plea deal. On June 30, 2008, Epstein pleads guilty in state court to procuring a person under 18 for prostitution and solicitation of prostitution. The judge sentences him to 18 months in the Palm Beach County Jail. But even this slap on the wrist comes with privileges. Epstein serves his time in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Stockade, separated from other inmates. After 3 months, he qualifies for work release 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. A deputy drives him to his downtown West Palm Beach office each morning at 8 a.m. The office, established solely for this purpose, sits in a Class A building where Epstein meets with lawyers, money managers, and female visitors whose identities are never verified. The deputies assigned to guard him are paid by Epstein, not the county. One deputy, after watching young women visit Epstein's office, files a complaint that he's been forced to watch sex acts. But the complaint magically disappears. Epstein is released on July 22, 2009, after serving 13 months. The federal case is officially closed. Meanwhile, victim's attorney Bradley Edwards discovers the secret deal only after it's signed. His clients never received the notification required by federal law. When he confronts prosecutors, they claim notifying victims would have complicated negotiations. Edwards files a lawsuit against the federal government for violating his client's rights. It will take 11 years for a federal judge to rule that prosecutors indeed broke the law, far too late to void Epstein's deal. During those 11 years, Epstein returns to his mansions in Manhattan, Palm Beach, Paris, and Little St. James Island. He continues flying powerful men on his Boeing 727, nicknamed the Lolita Express. Flight logs show President Clinton flew 26 times, though he denies witnessing any crimes. Prince Andrew visits Epstein's properties multiple times, later claiming he stayed friends with a convicted sex offender to learn about international trade. The pyramid scheme continues operating, just more carefully. Young women still arrive at Epstein's properties for massages, though now they're usually 18 or claim to be. The fixer who helped Epstein escape justice becomes a cabinet member. Acosta is confirmed as Trump's labor secretary in 2017, overseeing human trafficking enforcement nationwide. How many new victims did Epstein create during his decade of freedom? And how did journalists miss a story hiding in plain sight? November 28, 2018. Miami Herald reporter Julie Brown publishes Perversion of Justice, an investigation 2 years in the making. She tracked down 60 victims, convincing several to speak on camera for the first time. Her investigation reveals that Acosta's office didn't just make a bad deal, they worked as Epstein's defense team. Emails show prosecutors warning Epstein's lawyers about upcoming decisions, coordinating media statements, and hiding proceedings from victims. One email from prosecutor A. Marie Villafana to Lefkowitz reads, "I will mention to the victims that this is an ongoing investigation and they should not talk to the media." She was actively suppressing her own witnesses. The series detonates across newsrooms worldwide. Suddenly, everyone wants to know how Jeffrey Epstein got away with trafficking children. Reporters dig up his connections to Victoria's Secret CEO Les Wexner, who gave Epstein power of attorney over his entire fortune. They uncover Epstein's dinner parties with scientists like Stephen Hawking and Murray Gell-Mann at his Manhattan townhouse, where he positioned himself as a science philanthropist while surrounding himself with teenage girls he called his assistants. They trace millions flowing through his financial entities despite having no visible clients since Wexner. The story that emerges isn't just about sex crimes, it's about an entire ecosystem of enablement. Federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York read Brown's reporting and see something their predecessors missed, a case that never should have been closed. Jeffrey Berman, U.S. Attorney for SDNY, opens a new investigation through the Public Corruption Unit, a detail that suggests they're looking beyond just Epstein. They issue subpoenas for his financial records, discovering suspicious wire transfers totaling millions to potential co-conspirators and witnesses. They execute search warrants on his properties simultaneously, preventing destruction of evidence. Unlike Acosta's team, they move fast and silent. March 2019. French police raid Epstein's Avenue Foch apartment in Paris, finding hundreds of photographs of young women and girls. New Mexico state authorities open an investigation into Epstein's Zorro Ranch, where victims describe being flown for modeling opportunities that turned into assault. The U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General subpoenas 20 years of flight logs for Epstein's helicopters and planes traveling to Little St. James, his 70-acre private island locals call Petal Island. For the first time in 14 years, Epstein can't contain the investigation. There are too many jurisdictions, too many prosecutors, too many reporters. His usual tactics, intimidation, bribery, legal manipulation, can't work when the entire world is watching. July 6, 2019, 5 p.m. Epstein's Gulfstream G550 descends toward Teterboro Airport after a flight from Paris. He's been living abroad for weeks, perhaps sensing the walls closing in. FBI agents wait on the tarmac. As Epstein steps off his plane, Agent William Sweeney places him under arrest. The new indictment charges conspiracy to commit sex trafficking and sex trafficking of minors. There's no mention of prostitution. These are federal charges recognizing children as victims, not criminals. Inside Epstein's Manhattan mansion that night, agents crack his safe. They find hundreds of CDs and hard drives labeled Young Name plus Name, photographs of naked girls, $70,000 in cash, 48 loose diamonds, and an expired Austrian passport bearing Epstein's photo, but the name Mark Epstein with a Saudi Arabia address. Why did Epstein need a fake passport? And what was on those hard drives that required a safe within a safe? July 8, 2019. Epstein appears before Magistrate Judge Henry Pittman in Manhattan Federal Court, wearing a navy blue prison jumpsuit instead of his usual $5,000 Brioni suits. His attorneys proposed the most expensive bail package in New York history, $77 million secured by his Manhattan mansion, his Gulfstream grounded, an ankle monitor with GPS tracking, private security guards paid to ensure home confinement, and surrender of his passport collection. Attorney Martin Weinberg argues Epstein has spotless behavior since his 2008 conviction, ignoring the new evidence of continued trafficking. Assistant U.S. Attorney Alex Rossmiller counters with a single photograph, an explicit image of a young girl seized from Epstein's mansion 2 days earlier, dated 2019. The myth of rehabilitation crumbles. Judge Richard Berman denies bail on July 18th. Epstein poses an extraordinary risk of flight, given his wealth, private planes, and foreign properties. More importantly, he's a danger to the community. Even under house arrest, Epstein could intimidate witnesses or destroy evidence. He's remanded to Metropolitan Correctional Center, the federal jail in downtown Manhattan. For someone who hasn't slept outside his own properties in a decade, it's a devastating blow. MCC is a concrete fortress where El Chapo awaited trial, where terrorists are held before sentencing. The special housing unit where Epstein lands is effectively solitary confinement, a 6x8 cell with a steel toilet, thin mattress, and fluorescent lights that never fully dim. July 23, 2019, 1:27 a.m. Officer Tova Knoll responds to shouting from the SHU. She finds Epstein on his cell floor in a fetal position with marks around his neck. His cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, an ex-cop facing death for quadruple murder, claims Epstein tried to hang himself. Epstein tells his lawyers Tartaglione attacked him. The truth remains unclear, but MCC places Epstein on suicide watch. For 6 days, he's stripped to a paper gown, monitored constantly, everything potentially dangerous removed from reach. His lawyers petition for removal, arguing the conditions are punitive. Prison psychologist files an assessment that Epstein shows no suicidal ideation. Against standard protocol for someone who allegedly attempted suicide, he's returned to the SHU on July 30th. August 9th, 2019. Epstein's cellmate is transferred out, leaving him alone in violation of jail policy requiring companionship for at-risk inmates. The 2 guards assigned to the SHU that night, Noel and Thomas, are both working overtime. Thomas is on his 5th consecutive day of mandatory extra shifts. The surveillance camera outside Epstein's cell has been malfunctioning for weeks. The repair request lost in bureaucracy. Yeah, we all know what that means. At 10:30 p.m., Noel and Thomas complete their last documented check of Epstein's cell. For the next 8 hours, they'll falsify log entries showing checks every 30 minutes. In reality, they're browsing furniture websites and sleeping at their desk 15 feet from Epstein's door. 4 a.m., August 10th. Epstein tears his orange bedsheet into strips. He fashions a noose, ties it to the upper bunk, and leans forward until unconsciousness takes him. Without the required checks, no one notices for 2.5 hours. When Noel finally approaches cell 220 at 6:30 a.m., finds a scene that will launch 1,000 conspiracy theories. The autopsy reveals broken neck bones more consistent with strangulation than suicide, though the medical examiner maintains her conclusion of self-infliction. The guards are charged with falsifying records but receive plea deals for 100 hours of community service. No one is fired. The warden is transferred. The camera malfunction is blamed on technical difficulties. Every single safeguard failed at the exact moment they were needed most, and all those safeguards were the only protection against Epstein, testifying against some of the most powerful people on Earth. Attorney General William Barr calls it a perfect storm of screw-ups. What was the chance of that? Like 0%. FBI analysis confirms the cameras malfunctioned due to technical issues, not tampering. The guards' internet history proves they were shopping and sleeping, not participating in a murder plot. But these mundane explanations can't satisfy a public that watched Epstein escape justice once before. Epstein didn't kill himself becomes more than a meme. It's a referendum on whether Americans trust their institutions to hold the powerful accountable. The answer clearly is no. Even in death, Epstein demonstrates how the system breaks when it encounters wealth and connections. He spent his life exploiting those flaws. In the end, they allowed his final escape. With Epstein dead, criminal prosecution dies too. His victims file civil suits against his $634 million estate, eventually receiving $125 million in settlements. Money without accountability, compensation without closure. Ghislaine Maxwell is arrested in July 2020, convicted in December 2021 of recruiting and grooming minors for Epstein. She receives 20 years but never reveals which powerful men participated in or knew about the trafficking. Prince Andrew settles a civil suit with victim Virginia Giuffre for an estimated $12 million, never admitting wrongdoing. Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, and dozens of other prominent men linked to Epstein through flight logs and photographs issue carefully worded denials. The Black Book, containing contact information for presidents, princes, and billionaires, remains partially sealed by court order. Thousands of documents from various lawsuits slowly trickle out through court orders, each batch revealing fragments. A famous senator at Epstein's Manhattan parties, a Supreme Court justice's name in flight logs, corporate executives visiting the island. But without Epstein's testimony, without a complete unsealing of evidence, the full network remains hidden. We know Epstein trafficked hundreds of girls. We know he provided them to other men. We don't know which men, how many, or whether they faced any consequences. The prosecutors who enabled him advanced their careers. Acosta resigned as labor secretary only after public pressure. Villafana still works as a federal prosecutor. Not one government official faced criminal charges for the 2008 deal that violated federal law. The lesson isn't that the system failed, it's that the system worked exactly as designed when wealth and power are involved. Every institution that should have stopped Epstein instead enabled him. Local police gathered evidence, but prosecutors ignored it. Federal agents built a case, but their bosses negotiated it away. Journalists could have exposed him earlier, but didn't dig until the Miami Herald invested 2 years of resources. Prison officials had one job: keep him alive for trial, and couldn't manage 8 hours of competent supervision. When people ask how Epstein got away with it for so long, the answer is simple: because everyone let him. The judges who approved his cushy jail terms, the prosecutors who kept victims in the dark, the prison guards who literally slept while he died, the politicians who took his money and attended his parties while ignoring whispers about young girls. They all had choices, and they all chose complicity. 3 years after Epstein's death, Little St. James Island sells to an investment firm for $60 million, half its original price. The new owners plan to develop a luxury resort. The Manhattan mansion sells for $51 million to Michael Daffy, a former Goldman Sachs executive. The Palm Beach estate is demolished. Physical traces of Epstein's empire vanish into renovation and rubble. But questions persist in investigations that continue despite their primary target's absence. Why did Deutsche Bank process hundreds of suspicious transactions from Epstein's accounts after his conviction? Why did the State Department approve his travel to Saudi Arabia while he was a registered sex offender? What did the hard drives labeled with girls' names contain? And where are they now? The story you just witnessed is only what we can prove. The full truth likely involves more victims, more perpetrators, more institutional failures than we'll ever document. Each revelation raises the same question. If they could protect Jeffrey Epstein this completely, who else are they protecting right now? For more on how billionaires manipulate justice, watch the video we made about John McAfee, a legend, and you'll see how Epstein's playbook came from a long tradition of people manipulating justice and then dying under, let's say, at least weird circumstances.